Institute of Professional Management. My name is Ebricha Banito, and I will be the one taking us on this series today on break time. Our discussion today is going to be focusing on leadership trends or leadership trends in 2024. We understand that we are now in a constantly changing environment. We are now in a constantly changing world. So therefore, businesses need to relearn and understand how to manage their resources, manage people in this time for them to be able to deliver results. And that is what we're going to be discussing today. How do we get to become much more effective leaders? So we're going to be looking at perspectives, how research looks at it. So we're going to be looking at different perspectives, although our focus for discussion today is going to be on Forbes. So we're going to look at what Forbes said about the current trends. And I will also encourage you to check out other documentaries, and then we'll also share our own view on what is happening around the leadership environment in the business world. One more time, my name is Ebricha Banito, and I am the Executive Director at the Integrated Institute of Professional Management. And today we are learning about, or we are reviewing leadership trends in 2024. So one more time, organizations are established primarily to create solutions to solve problems. So organizations are created to solve problems, and in the process of doing this, they get to make profit and they get to make impact. But much more today in the whole value chain of creating value and solving problem, leaders within organizations do primarily two things. They manage and they lead. So entrepreneurs, business owners, business executives, they do primarily two things. Directors of organizations, they do primarily two things: leadership and management. So with effective leadership and effective management, we then get to achieve our vision and our purpose of existing as an organization. So that is very, very important for us to understand. Now, that being said, that for me is that we must understand how to make the most of people in this particular time as part of the resources we need in order for us to make the most of what we have. So how do you become an effective leader, and what perspective are driving leadership in 2024? Okay, so the first thing I'm going to be picking is the aspect of adaptability and agility. That's the first area I'm going to be picking about in leadership. So in 2024, we talk about adaptability and we talk about leadership. And that's not just for 2024. That has been there for a while, but moving forward, this is reshaping, and it's going to keep reshaping what leadership is all about. So thank you so much for joining us once again. In case you've not shared the stream, please feel free to share and invite others to join us as we take just a moment to review on leadership trends in 2024. So I talked about the first trend is adaptability and flexibility. Adaptability and flexibility. So with adaptability, we talk about managing changes as they come. So change in market trends, change in technology, change in diversity, change in change as they come. So we talk about the VUCA environment, the volatile environment, the volatile environment, the uncertain business environment, and then we talk about the complex business environment, and then we'll talk about the ambiguous business environment. So all of these help us to create new narratives on what the current business environment is all about. So for leaders to be able to make the most of their leadership in 2024, they need to understand the principle of adaptability and flexibility. And then permit me to go through Forbes, and let's see what Forbes has to say here. So Forbes talks about, number one, adaptive leadership, and then that's talking about looking at the VUCA environment. So how do we as leaders get to manage the VUCA environment? That's the volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous work environment or business environment. So there is the principle of adaptability. Okay, so Forbes recommended some practical ways you can use to make the most of adaptability. So they encourage embracing change, they encourage flexibility and agility, and they encourage learning orientation. So when it comes to embracing change, like we say in IPM, we must be open to change. Okay, we must be open to realizing that change is a constant, and then we must position ourselves to be able to manage change. So we shouldn't be averse to change, but we should be open to change, right? Then they talked about flexibility and agility. Okay, so flexibility and agility, talking about the decisions that we make, how speedy do we take to, how speedy are we in taking the right decisions. In one of our discussions, we talked about the velocity of discussion. Okay, so in contemporary times, in 2024, we are looking at decisions that are highly decisions with speed. So you want to increase your velocity when it comes to decision making, all right? And then also in problem solving, you need to break down problems to the tiniest forms. You want to deal with them in the best way you can deal with them, and then deal with them appropriately. And then we talk about learning orientation. Okay, so leaders need to understand the principle of learning. In a time of change, we need to be open to learning. Okay, open to learning. Okay, so we must encourage a good learning culture, a flexible learning culture, and agile learning culture to make the most of it. Now, another aspect, remember the first trend we look at is adaptability and what? Adaptability and flexibility, right? Now, the second issue we look at is the issue of emotional intelligence. Okay, the next trend we look at in leadership is the trend of emotional intelligence, and this is what we have to talk about here. Emotional intelligence has become a sine qua non for us to make the most of what we have to offer as far as leadership is concerned today. So if you want to make the most of leadership today, you must get to be emotionally intelligent as a leader. We need to be much more humanistic, although we have, irrespective of the knowledge, volume of knowledge that keeps going on, we have more of the mechanistic kind of relationship rather than a relationship based kind of transaction, right? So we still have leaders that are mechanistic rather than relationship driven. So in emotional intelligence, it gives us the perspective of looking at things in a more humanly perspective, and talks also about we serving by purpose. Okay, we serving by purpose, the purpose of the organization, understanding the purpose of the organization, understanding our own individual purpose, understanding the individual purpose of the people within the organization, so that you can be able to align all towards driving the organizational goals. And in contemporary times, when it comes to leadership, we're not just only interested in the advancement of the organization, there should also be advancement of the people. Okay, so the whatever thing we're doing in leadership should be done in such a way that while the organization is moving on, while the goals of the organization are being achieved, the goals of the individuals, the personal development of the individuals are also achieved. All right, so this is very, very important. Okay, so let's look at what Forbes has to say about how emotional intelligence plays its role. So it talks about self-awareness and self-regulation, and then talks about the interpersonal effectiveness, and also talks about the role of emotional intelligence in making decisions. Remember, I talked about we getting to be much more mechanistic in our dealings rather than us becoming much more human. All right, so we need to introduce the aspect of good relationship, effective relationship, and placing people at the center of our decisions, placing people at the center of our transactions, and placing people at the center of whatever thing we do in leadership. Right, this is very, very important. All right, then we now look at the third trend, and the third trend talks about the purpose-driven leadership. The purpose-driven leadership. The purpose-driven leadership. It says where there is no law, there is no sin. Okay, so where there is no law, there is no sin, and without purpose, the people perish. So for us to make the most of leadership in this time, remember we started with the principle of adaptability, and then we went on to talking about the flexibility aspect of it, and then we talked about the agility aspect of it. So when we also take on purpose, organizations will have purpose divided in segments. Okay, so you have your vision, you have your mission, you have your goals, you have your objectives, you have your core values, you have your ethics. You actually have an establishment of corporate governance and what it looks like within your organization, right? So these are very important concepts when when it comes to leadership, right? So the purpose-driven leadership. So we don't just lead just like that, but we lead by purpose. So let me establish this, that leadership actually is everything. Okay, from national perspective down to personal perspective, leadership is everything. Okay, so all across the nations of the globe, every nation you see performing well is a function of the leadership perspective in that environment. The kind of purpose the leadership framework has. Okay, the kind of purpose the leadership framework within the environment has. Okay, so any country you see suffering is because of the kind of leadership available. Any organization you see suffering is because of the kind of leadership available. Any family you see suffering is because of the kind of leadership available. Without well-defined purpose, no organization moves far. Without well-defined purpose, no organization will see the light of the day. So we must walk by purpose. Okay, so remember, I'm looking at Forbes and looking at what Forbes has to say. Okay, so according to Forbes, organizations need to be mission-centric. Okay, organizations, when it comes to purpose-driven leadership, organizations need to be mission-centric. Organizations need to have long-term vision, and organizations need to have they need to be value alignment. Okay, there need to be value alignment. There should be alignment of the ethics, the values of the organizational culture towards their vision, towards their mission. And that also should bring about the alignment of the individual goals, individual visions, individual possibilities, aligning them to the long-term vision of the organization. So let me go back again and look at these trends. Okay, so the first trend I've talked about is the trend of adaptability and flexibility. And in it, we talked about embracing change. We talked about the concept of agility, and then we talked about the concept of learning orientation, learning, unlearning, and relearning as core aspects of leadership for us to be effective in leadership today. And then we went on to talking about the second trend, talking about emotional intelligence. So leaders need to be much more human. Okay, our relationships shouldn't be mechanistic, rather they should be relationship based, they should be people based. Okay, whatever thing we do within organizations, within the nations, okay, it need to be people centered. Okay, it need to be people centered. All right, this is very, very important. We need to be people centered. All right, and then in talking about emotional intelligence more is about identifying your emotions and identifying the emotions of others and being able to manage those emotions in order to solve problems. That's what emotional intelligence is all about. And emotional intelligence is broken down into four domains. You have the self-awareness, you have the self-regulation, you have the social awareness, and then you have the social skills. So as a leader, you need to have an understanding of first your own personal awareness, and then you need to have an awareness of the kind of individuals that exist within your team, within your organization, within your cabinet, within your country. You need to understand all of that, and then also you need to set some sort of self-regulation. In this case, you talk about the values, you talk about the ethics, the rules that can help you achieve purpose, right? Help you achieve purpose. And then we'll talk about the social skills, understanding how to relate with others, understanding the needs of people, understanding the emotional expressions of people, and being able to manage them. Okay, I just stepped out today, and for those of us within Abuja, you could notice protests. Is it Nigerian Labour Congress? They're having protests around the secretariat and major houses in Abuja, and then you see police everywhere. You see army, you see NSCDC, and all of those guys everywhere. Okay, so why is protest coming up? Maybe I would say the leadership has not been able to understand the social dimension of the people, Okay, and for that reason, they've not been able to meet to the social needs of the people, and that for that purpose, there's chaos in the land. There is an uproar in the land. Okay, then we'll talk about the purpose-driven leadership. Purpose-driven leadership. And I started saying that organizations need to have vision, organizations need to have mission, organizations need to have core values, organizations need to have what brings about their behavior. Of course, we understand that every organization has a behavior, and that behavior will determine if the organization will achieve purpose, will achieve vision, will achieve the things they've set to achieve or not. Okay, so in talking about a purpose-driven leadership, there should be long-term vision, organization should be mission-centric, and then there should be value alignment. And then the next trend in leadership in 2024, and we need to be aware of, is the remote leadership skills. So COVID-19, remember that our anchor or our source of review for today is the Forbes.com. So you can also check them out, what they have to say about leadership trends today. Okay, and I trust you get good information from there. Okay, so another thing they talked about is remote leadership skills. Remote leadership skills. In COVID brought about remote working, right? Or COVID gave volume or amplified the need for remote working. But even with the fact that we have remote working, you'll find that people are actually much more distracted working from home, or let me not say everyone, but most people are distracted working from home. And that has given birth, because people want to concentrate and focus on their work, that has given birth to what we call the remote workstations today, or workstations. So people just go to a place where they can pay for an hour or 2 or 3 or a few hours, and then they do what they want to do, and they head back to wherever they want to, where they want to head to. But much more importantly, the remote work skills requires discipline. So if you want to work remotely, that means it will require a whole lot of discipline, all right? It will require a whole lot of arrangement, or a whole lot of organization, organizing yourself, disciplining yourself, and putting up focus in order for you to be able to do the needful in the remote work environment. So let's see the suggestions we have here when it comes to remote working. So number one thing here is that you must set out goals that you want to achieve as a remote career person, as a remote worker, freelancer, what have you. And of course, most of us organizations too are engaging remote workers, engaging freelancers to be able to do, or to help us do what we want to do. But we also need to help them also get to have the best of their remote working experience, right? Okay, so you have to set goals on what you must do. Okay, and part of your assignment too is to put a pin on your time management. So you must have effective time management skills. Effective time management skills. All right, so before I proceed, one more time, you're welcome to this break time. This is break time. On break time, break time is a professional discussion where we do reviews and global trends on what's happening around leadership, around management, around business, entrepreneurship around the world. And today we're looking at leadership trends in 2024. These are some of the things that business owners, entrepreneurs, CEOs, business executives, directors need to know about leadership and how to make the most of leadership in 2024 and moving forward. And this will help us to understand different dimensions of human behavior and how to put them to perspectives. Now, if you've not shared the stream, please go ahead, share it to invite someone. We'll be done in a few minutes. So share it to invite someone to join us. And in case you've not given us a like, please go ahead and give us a like. That will be good. And you can also give us those like emojis. If what we're saying here makes sense to you, go ahead and give us those likes emojis. And thank you so much for taking your break, having your break with us next day. And also, break time comes up every Tuesday by 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. So every Tuesday, 1 to 2 p.m., we'll have break time. So we just review things around leadership, management, entrepreneurship, and business. So go ahead, share the stream, like the stream, and then we'll move ahead. All right, so we're talking about remote leadership skills, all right? Remote leadership skills. So I've talked about, number one, if you want to be very good in remote leadership, then you must set goals. Number two, you must put a pin on your time management. Put a pin on your time. So that means you must learn how to schedule your tasks. in order for you to deliver effectively. And then the next thing you want to do is put a pin on being effective when it comes to communication. Irrespective of the fact that you are working remotely, you must also understand that you are working remotely to achieve a goal. Remember where we started from? We started from the fact that organizations exist to create solutions which solve problems. And in the process of this value chain of creating solutions to solve problems, they make impact and they make profit. And in this whole value chain, they employ people, they employ resources, they employ processes, and several other things to make sure that they deliver to their mandate. And when they recruit you as a person, of course, all of these things they do lead to employment, right? So when they employ you remotely, what are the things you're expected to do? So we're talking about remote leadership. So remote leadership is more like personal leadership effectiveness. Personal leadership effectiveness. Okay, so I've talked about you setting clear objectives, setting clear goals of what you want to achieve working remotely. And then number two, you must put a pin on your time management. You must be effective in managing time and managing schedule. Okay, because you must deliver according to the promise and according to the task delivered or according to the task scheduled. And then number three, you must be very good in communication. Okay, so we have the digital skills now becoming non-negotiable in the world we're in. So you must master communication. You must do what? You must master communication. You must master communication. This is very, very important. Mastering communication is key in 2024 for you to be effective as a leader, much more as a remote worker. All right. Then next thing is for you to foster team cohesion, irrespective of the fact that you're working remotely. But as a remote leader, where you have teams working with you, you must learn how to foster team cohesion. So you must find the platforms that support your team to collaborate and foster social well-being and social wellness of the people working with you. With that, you foster trust, you foster the ability for your team to work together very effectively. And then we look at training and skills development. As far as you are a remote worker and you are a leader in contemporary times, you must understand that training and development is key in sharpening your remote work skills and sharpening your remote leadership skills. All right. So invest in your training and development, invest in your leadership training, your digital training, and every other training that will make sense in driving your career and driving your business in time as this. Then another important aspect of the trend in leadership today is what we talk about, the technology and data literacy. Technology and data literacy. So every day we talk about technology, every day we talk about data science, data analytics, data-driven decision, and what have you. And this is where we are headed today. So as leaders, we must understand the place of data. We must understand the place of technology. And of course, technology is one of the things that are massively changing the landscape, the paradigm of the business environment. So we must keep abreast of how leadership will get more effective through effective embracing of technology and data. Now, how do we foster that? There should be accelerated digital transformation. So for you as a business person, I actually went to procure something today. Before this class, I went to procure something today. And while I was procuring the thing, someone asked the person selling, they said, why are you still using this paper receipt? Why don't you get the e-copy receipt? Of course, it doesn't cost you as much as this paper, okay? And the person said, so how does it go? So what are we trying to say? With the way things are going, we need to digitalize most of our operations. Of course, most of them are getting digitalized, but you need to make them much more digitalized. If you've not considered digitalizing your processes, then you may also need to call on consultants. Of course, we can also help you with doing such. If you want to digitalize your processes, you can reach out to IPM Our IT department can help you fix your digital transformation process. And then another thing is the data-driven decision making is gradually building up on a large scale. Okay, everything we do right now is data-driven. Everything we do right now is data-driven. And organizations need to understand, leaders need to understand that aspect of leadership, okay, that they need to make decisions based on realistic data, based on quality data. All right, this is very, very important. And then we'll also have that of advanced automation and managing AI. Okay, advanced automations and AI. Okay, so the other day I was watching through this innovation where most farms around the world are now using robots to make their plant or make their planting make their plantings. Okay, so they use robots to make plantings, or let me say they use robot for agricultural processes from the time of planting to the time of harvesting, even to the time of disposing them to the market. Okay, and this is all about advanced automation. This is all about AI integration, artificial intelligence integration. And of course, if you've not paid attention to mastering or paid attention to how can you begin to integrate AI to your business, you need to begin to pay good attention to it. So don't shift it aside. Okay, don't shift it aside. So you need to pay attention to that. Okay, so these are some of the views that Forbes have around leadership trends today. Now let's look at this view from the IPM perspective, and this is where we're going to be summarizing it. So we're summarizing all of what we have dealt with. And first, in case you have question, in case you have comment, please use the comment section, drop your comment, and then I will pick it up and answer. And of course, most of our professionals online too will be there to support. Okay, so in 2024, what are the things you must pay attention to? You must pay attention to building trust. As a leader, you must pay attention to building trust. Trust is paramount in this era we are. Okay, you must pay attention to building trust. I trust in one of our sections we'll take the time to discuss on how to build trust among your team members and with your stakeholders in 2024 and moving forward. All right, but note that trust is paramount as far as leadership is concerned in contemporary times. And then the next thing we look at there is navigating the age of artificial intelligence. Okay, navigating the age of artificial intelligence. Remember, I'm summarizing. So navigating the age of artificial intelligence. In case you've not paid attention to artificial intelligence, perhaps you could check. We had a video section, we had a section some times ago where we looked at artificial intelligence in your business. Okay, how it goes. So you can check it out in our channel. Okay, check that out in our channel. Okay, then another thing we also summarize here is leadership beyond shareholder focus. Okay, leadership beyond shareholder focus. And I've talked about the adoption of emotional intelligence, that leaders need to pay attention to adopting emotional intelligence in contemporary times. There is need to get emotional intelligence as part of what makes up your build up as a leader. Okay, so with that, you get to be much more, or your focus get to be beyond the shareholder and get to see every other person as stakeholders in your business. Okay, so from just beyond shareholder and looking at the stakeholder perspective. All right, then another thing here is building a sustainable future. This is very, very important. Among everything we discuss, we look at building sustainability. Okay, building sustainability. If you want to get sustainable as a leader, then you must pay attention to all of the things we've been talking about. Okay, we've talked about adaptability, flexibility, agility. Okay, we've talked about emotional intelligence. We've talked about purpose-driven leadership. We've talked about remote leadership skills. Okay, we've talked about technology and data-driven leadership. Okay, digital leadership, right? Okay, so that's very, very important. And now we are talking about establishing sustainability, sustainable future. For us to be able to establish a sustainable future, then it is important that we pay attention to what? We pay attention to good leadership, right? Then another thing is embracing empathy and humanity, and that talks about emotional intelligence. Okay. Then another thing we talk about here is prioritizing mental wellness. Prioritizing mental wellness. In the current days we are, people are suffering a lot. Okay, people are passing through a lot. So we as leaders, we don't want to add to their mental stress, but rather we want to encourage activities within the organization that will promote mental awareness. So any training around emotional intelligence, anything around exercises should be well planned, thought out, and then promoted within the organization. They will also have championing diversity and inclusion as part of sustainability agenda, as part of corporate governance framework. Organizations today must pay attention to diversity and inclusion. Diversity and what? Inclusion. Organizations need to pay attention to diversity and inclusion. Then another thing that we must pay attention to is lifelong learning. Okay, lifelong learning. Okay, lifelong learning. Organizations need to pay attention to what? To lifelong learning. Individuals need to pay attention to lifelong learning, and everyone need to pay attention to lifelong learning. And this is where we're going to be calling it a timeout on this break time today. I trust you learned something. Okay, so I would like to have your view. If you've learned something, please put it in the chat room. And if you've not subscribed, please go ahead, subscribe, and let's know what your view is about all of what we've learned today, of what we've shared today. This is a discussion, and it's called break time. So every Tuesday by 1 p.m. we'll have break time. So join us next Tuesday. But before we go, please feel free to check out our website, our professional programs, starting very, very soon. So we have our professional certification programs internationally recognized that will give your career and business a boost. So you check out our website on iipmi.org to find out all of that. iipmi.org, iipmi.org. So you can write that down, you can scribble that out, or you could search on Google Integrated Institute of Professional Management, Integrated Institute of Professional Management. Of course, you can also join our consulting course programs. Okay, you can also join our mini MBA programs, and then you can also join our executive MBA programs. And I trust all of this will make tremendous change in your life. So one more time, thank you for joining us. Thank you to our coordinator. Thank you to all of our faculty around, and thanks, and see you. In case you've not subscribed, in case you've not liked the stream, please go ahead, like the stream, subscribe, and see you by next week, Tuesday. Do have a wonderful time. Bye-bye.